Welcome to Stage Dive, a podcast where we go deep on the art of live performance to help artists perform better on stage. I am your host, Jack Dawkins. I am a rapper, poet, and storyteller out of Boulder, Colorado. Welcome to a special edition, capital S, capital E, episode of Stage Dive. My name is Jack Dawkins. I will be your host for the evening and all of the time, frankly, unless shit gets really crazy. Don't mind me while I take my chaqueta off. We don't have a normal episode for you this week, and the reason is because I'm disorganized sometimes, and I didn't schedule enough. So there's that. But the other reason is that I wanted to take an opportunity to just talk about my experience with live performance, which I've been very fortunate to have a little bit more of in recent weeks. I think it's been 6 performances in the last month or so, which for me is an increased number, which is great. And there's 2 reasons I want to do this. One is I so often find myself asking the question of like, how would you even know how to do these things or how to think about these things anytime I'm thinking about putting on a live show? So what I'm trying to do is literally create the resource I wish I had for myself. And so I am incrementally further than some people who will be listening to this. I'm way behind where other people might be. But to at least just create a place for someone to go and be like, if I'm thinking about performing for the first time, what should I think about? What's important? Kind of like what are the lessons you learned as you were going through that? So that's a piece of it. And then the second piece, honestly, is like, it's an accountability thing. It's as I go through and learn these lessons and share them in this kind of like interesting little transitional episode format, I can go back and ask myself the question, am I doing these things? Am I following through on what I told myself I was actually going to be doing for live performance? And if I'm not, like, I should probably fix that because, you know, we're competing against ourselves at the end of the day. So with that, what I want to talk about tonight are like just 3 major things that I feel like are too often ignored in the shows that I go to see. And I don't say that as a knock on the artist. I think like many things, there's 1,000 voices with 1,000 things to say about what you should or shouldn't be doing on stage. And all I can do is share my lived experience and share the results of that lived experience that have given me the perspective that I have. Again, it's N of 1, single data point. But I at least want to share them as an alternative to, I think, a lot of what you might hear out there, so that people can at least give it a try or at least be aware that there's a different option out there than just what they either think might be best or have seen that they really liked, whatever it might be. So when it comes to a show, the 3 things that I right now I'm thinking about a lot are energy, connection, and memory. Energy, connection, memory. And I'm quickly just going to go through each one of them. Maybe not so quickly. I tend to talk, so we'll see. But so let's just jump in. Energy is really, really important. And what I mean by energy is not necessarily your energy as a performer, though I do think it should go without saying. Like, if you are unenthused on stage, A, why the fuck are you there? And B, why would anyone be excited to watch you if you don't have any enthusiasm for the performance? I can think of a number of openers I've seen at Red Rocks who feel like they kind of just got thrown on the bill and they don't look happy to be there, which is a bizarre experience as an audience member because you're like, wow, like the whole idea is that it's fun for you to be on stage and we're having fun with you. And if you're not even having fun, like, well, fuck, like it's certainly not making it across 9,000 people, right? But so when I say energy, what I mean is, what is the energy in the audience? Like, what are they communicating to you with their energy, and how do you read that as a way to think about what to do with the performance? So let's go through what I mean first, which is like, what is the experience of someone who is coming to a show? Like, just think about what that is. So for the most part, if you bought a ticket to go see a show, you are excited to go to that show. You got dressed up, you met up with friends, you're probably having a drink or 2 or 6. Like, you are there to have a good time. And part of that is that there is a buildup, there is anticipation. there is nervousness, there is anxiousness because you're excited about what you're going to see. It's the same way if you go out to a really nice dinner, you probably thought about it all day. You thought about what you might order off the menu. You picked out an outfit. You probably didn't eat much all day, which means you're fucking like hungry and anxious. And so, and let's be honest, like music venues play with that tension. Like there's a fucking reason that the doors open at 7 and the headliner doesn't go on until 10. And why every opener is like, are you excited to see this person? How are you feeling tonight? Blah, blah, blah. Like you're just building up that tension so that when it gets released, it's this wave of energy that everyone can feel. Sure. But that tension is there from the jump, like, because that tension started building before people arrived at the theater. It started building when they bought the tickets. So for what that means to me, when you're going to open a show, you have to immediately kind of like give the people what they want. Like they want to be hyped from the moment you come on stage. And so when you walk out, it's very little preamble. It's right into one or two of your highest energy songs. And it's basically being like, I see you. I understand that you're anxious. I'm so grateful that you're here and that you bought these tickets. And I'm here to fucking entertain you. Let me take care of you. That's how you open the show. But here's where I think people get silly. They feel that tension and that anxiety. They feel that wave of energy, the release from when you come out on stage. And then they think that the move is to just hold it there as high as they can in perpetuity. No, that shit don't work. Like, if you've ever done a workout, you cannot be going at max effort the entire time. There are breaks. There are sets. There are things you do to mentally reset. Like, a show is a workout, not just for you, the artist, but also for the people in the crowd. So like, if you just try to keep it at 11, they're going to burn out. They're going to get tired, right? Like you can't just keep asking for more energy and more energy and more energy. So what I think is a really great move is anxious anticipation, big energy opening, and then create space. Because what it does is it allows people to get present to the fact that they're at the show, that you're there on stage, that they're having this experience that they've been thinking about having for a long time. And they get to just kind of be like, like they get to just exhale and appreciate the fact that they are there and to kind of get present in the moment and to catch their breath. So like whether it's a longer introduction or a story or a little bit of crowd work, like I think that is a great moment where it's okay to actually like just be more talkative. Because again, they came in with expectations, you met those expectations, and now you're giving them a rest. And then from there, your goal is basically to make it so that wherever you go, by the end of the show, the energy, I guess there's two options. One is you can try and bring the energy even higher than it was at the beginning. This is like fireworks grand finale theory, right? It's like whenever you start a fireworks show, you start with a little bit of showmanship and then you back down and you do like a couple of little flashes and then you build and you ebb and you build and you ebb. But then when the finale's there, it's just like fucking blow the doors off, right? Like every firework that they have left all in the sky all at the same time, and it's smoke and it's loud and it's crazy and everyone's like blah, so that you can end a show that way. And your goal there again is like you think about where that energy was when there was all that tension and people first came into the room, and you come out on stage and that wave hits you. You basically want to see, can you get the energy even higher? Can you get it even higher than that? So that's one option. The other, which again I think is underutilized, is this idea of resolve. And resolve can be done a number of ways. I'll give you an example. So like I went to see Coda the Friend here in Colorado, and he has a song all about Colorado. I'm doubting myself. It may be called Colorado. It is. And anyway, he likes Colorado a lot, which is great. But like, so there's the tension that exists when he comes on stage, but there's also a tension because everyone knows he's going to play that song. Some people might save it for the encore, whatever. But for him, like it ended up being his second to last song. And there was something really beautiful about the fact that like everyone, you could tell, was just waiting for him to play it. And so even though they're having fun, even though they're having a good time, there's this little anxiety. It's like, fuck, when is he going to do it? When is he going to play it? and creating relief of people who are waiting anxiously for that song, I think is such a good way to create that resolution. And that song may not be your highest energy song. It wasn't Coda's. It wasn't his highest energy song. The crowd was fucking into it for sure. But he definitely had more energy in other songs. But what he was providing again was that sense of completion. That like that little internal loop that everyone was going through, like finally got turned off and people got to settle. And so again, like, so maybe fireworks, but also maybe like if there's a song, you know, people are waiting to hear it's your biggest song or it just came out and you've been talking about it, whatever it is. But like giving that resolution, I think can actually be a really beautiful way to end a set and allow people to land a little more softly. Again, it depends on your genre, depends on the artist you are, the relationship you have with your fans in this particular crowd. But again, so all of this is really about energy. And it's about understanding not only your own energy as an artist, which means like what energy am I putting out and able to put out across this 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60-minute set that I'm doing. And also what's the energy of the crowd and what's driving that energy and how do I meet them where they're at rather than constantly trying to pull them or push them in the direction that better suits me. When you're working together with the audience and using or taking advantage of the energy they already have and celebrating it and using it, like, ooh, that's so good. What I feel like I see so many people do is like, everybody make some fucking noise, put your hands up, say the hook back to me. And it's just like, ask. And at some point the crowd's like, no, like we're fucking tired. And I say this lovingly because I think what happens is they see a headliner and a lot of headliners can say whatever they want and everyone will lose their fucking mind. And that's beautiful. And that's a thing you earn as a headliner. But if you're an opener, like you're not going to be given the same grace. You're not going to be given the same energy just because you ask for it. So how can you be more thoughtful about drawing energy without having to explicitly just demand it over and over and over again? The second piece is on connection. And again, like this is where I feel very lucky that even though right now I'm playing in the space of hip hop, my background is storytelling. And so what's so much fun about hip hop is like it's fucking loud and like the way a beat hits you just immediately gets everyone like tractor beamed into what you're doing. Like the music, the instrumentation is supporting you so much. Like it feels like you're wearing anti-gravity boots when you're performing. Because again, like the instrumentation is just helping you out so much. Man, with storytelling, like it's a fucking quiet room and it's you and your words. And that's it. And like it's more intimidating in some ways, but it also really teaches you to understand like how to use your language and how to use stories, again, to create that connection with people, to make them really feel and understand who you are, right? Because at the end of the day, like if you're out here playing shows and you're a small artist, like your audience should be bigger after every show. Because if someone comes and sees you live and they leave without feeling connected to you, like if they don't fuck with the music or you, that's one thing. But like if they like the music and they like you, but they don't feel connected to you, like, oh, what a lost opportunity. And again, I think a space I see artists make a mistake in is that they don't do any storytelling. Like the whole show is like, this song just came out, song. Like this song is about to come out, song. This song came out last year, song. This song is with this producer who's different than another producer I work with, song. And like they're so focused on the product, they don't realize that like the artist is the product. Like the songs are like an extension of that, but ultimately like when you're building a brand as an artist, like you want people to connect to you. They may discover you through your songs, they may love a story you told in your songs, but you also need to give them your story. You also need to like help them get to know you better. And so this is a long-winded way of saying like when you have space in between songs, and to be clear, like I don't think that the space between every song should be a monologue. I wish I saw more people shorten the length of time between certain songs and extend it in other places. Because again, that's another thing that's easy to fall into. Like you play a full song, the instrumental stops, you talk for 15, 20 seconds, instrumental, 20 seconds, instrumental, 20 seconds. And it's like the same rhythm every single time. There's no variation. And like all things, like when we don't have variation as a human being, we get fucking bored. So what I so much more enjoy, and like, so this is what I did in my set earlier this week. I opened up with 3 songs in a row. It was the first half of 2 songs and then a full song. So about 4 minutes total. Then I took 2 minutes probably. I introduced myself. I talked about being a dad. I told some dad jokes because duh. And then after that, I went into another set of 3 songs. And then after that one, I did some really specific crowd work, which I'll talk about in a second. And then I did 3 more songs after that. And then between that and my last 2 songs, I told a whole story and I did a spoken word piece. Like I really stretched it out. But because I had delivered good energy and a lot of music, people were willing to listen to me talk for a little bit. And again, because I was able to really share a story, not in a rush, not in like a, hey, real quick but like really sit in it, people really connected to it, which was amazing. And so using your banter, your crowd work, whatever you want to call it, but not just as an opportunity to kind of like keep the shit moving, but like each of those is a little performance. And so if nothing else, I invite you into just asking the question, do you even think about what you're going to say between songs? Have you, like, even if it's like there are these 2 jokes in this story in this poem and I have 10 songs and I have to weave them in somewhere, like, are you showing up to that question? Because again, to me, that's low hanging fruit about how to make your set so much more interesting, which like lovely segue. So the last one, memorable, right? Like, just as I said, if someone comes and sees you live and doesn't remember you, that's a fucking tragedy, because the amount of shit that has to happen on the artist side of like getting booked, which is a whole fucking thing, then designing and figuring out your whole set, getting there, doing your sound check, connecting with all the artists, checking in with the venue, blah, 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 and then finally getting on stage. And then from the perspective of the audience, like finding out about the event, deciding to go, figuring out who they're going to go with, like spending some of their hard-earned money, like a lot goes into getting a performer on a stage and a person watching. Like it really is a lot. I know it happens all the time, but like I don't think that should be taken for granted. And because of that, I want, for me at least, and I think for a lot of people, that when I get a shot to be on stage, like I want to make it count. Not that it has to be the fucking best performance ever, but that it's memorable. Again, that someone, because like, here's what's cool about being memorable. It may mean jack shit right now. Like, so I did a show earlier this week. It may be true that no one who came to see me has listened to my music as a result of coming to the show. Fine. But what if in 2 years, like I'm playing at Red Rocks or I'm at a festival or they see me on Instagram or whatever it is, and they can almost immediately be like, I remember seeing him. I remember being at this little fucking venue that wasn't super crowded, and I remember his performance because he did blank. Blank could be so many things. But again, I think we, again, like getting into the mindset of people who are watching live music, like tell me there isn't a more rewarding moment when like you see someone and you're like, oh fuck, I remember them. I remember being at that tiny show way back when. Like that's such a beautiful experience to give to people. And so again, like if you get kind of intentional with it, you can do that. Now, again, like I think it's really easy to assume like, well, the way you do that is have a perfect performance. Man, maybe, right? Like putting the pressure on yourself to be absolutely immaculate and perfect for a performance is very, very stressful. And frankly, like even if you think about like performance at the highest levels, and in this moment I'm thinking of sports, like people fuck up all the time. And they're still considered very, very high performers. They're still getting the job done, but it's not perfect. So rather than focus on just having a quote unquote perfect performance, what are some elements you can introduce into the show that are really specific and unique to you? And this was something else I thought about, which like sort of blew my own mind as I thought about it. When I walk in to a club and an opener's playing and I don't know their music, it all sounds the same. Right? Like, because when I walk in, what I'm not immediately doing is like tractor beaming to that person and walking right up to the stage and just absorbing them fully present in that moment, right? Like, I'm maybe getting a drink, I'm looking around the venue, I'm just figuring out what it looks like. Like, there's so many distractions. And so if I'm not really hearing your lyrics, and I may not even be watching you, your music isn't actually going to be the thing that catches me. Again, like, I'm assuming there's a baseline of like talent and effort happening on stage. If you suck, that's a different thing. But again, the idea that you could be so good on stage, so impossibly compelling that everyone just can't look away from you, is such a high bar to set for yourself and so unreasonable in your early days of performing. Like, I think that's going to do more harm than help. And so instead, again, what I would think about is like, what are some little silly things? And they don't have to be silly. For me, that's how I think about it sometimes. Can you do? So a not silly one for me was this spoken word piece. And I didn't know how it was going to go, but I knew that like, if I do it well, it's going to be something people aren't expecting. It's going to be something people haven't necessarily seen before. Another one, which like, I really don't say this to brag. I say it because I was genuinely curious to see what would happen. I got the whole audience to do a quack cheer, like of the Mighty Ducks, for those who are, on level 3, much like myself. And I got them to quack. And I explained it's because like, it's not fun for me to just keep demanding energy of you. So let's do something fun together, just to like, again, shake our sillies out and enjoy that we're here together for this performance. And so we did a fucking quack. And like, again, was it the highlight of the evening for anyone? I really doubt it. Really, really, truly doubt it. It was fun. People did laugh. People did clap. Like, it worked from that perspective. But what I'm more excited about is that, like, again, in a year or year and a half, someone may see me again and will remember that I quacked. Like, God, what a dream it would be if in 2 years I'm on stage and someone starts quacking at me because they were at the show and they remembered that. Like, man, that for me is like, that's the beauty of live performance. Connecting with people in a way where they remember you and then they want to share that little like inside secret moment with you as you grow and as you continue to get better. So this is already longer than it needed to be, but I was like, again, I make this for myself to hold myself accountable to being a better performer every time I get on stage. I make this for people who are asking the question, how do I get on stage? How do I design a show? How do I think about interacting with an audience? Like, it's here. And I'm not perfect. I don't know everything, but I know what my experience has been, and all I can do is share that with you here. So do me a really big favor. If you enjoyed this, if you found this helpful at all, let me know. Like, if it was a total waste of time, you can let me know that too. But I'm still learning and understanding, like, A, who's listening, and B, like, how this can really be of more and more valuable to you as an audience. So for now, that's it. Again, this is Jack Dawkins, your host. I appreciate you. I love you. And I will see you either here on this podcast or on a stage near you soon. Pa. Thank you so much for joining us today on Stage Dive, and I hope that you enjoyed it. New episodes drop each and every Wednesday. You can find highlights and clips of these conversations on TikTok and Instagram using the handle @StageDivePodcast. If you have any questions for us, want to be featured on the show, or have anything else to send, you can always email us at stagedivepodcast@gmail.com. This is Jack Dawkins, and no matter how you're performing in the world today, I want you to know that you are loved. Take care.